One-foot-flipper.
Hi, Paige here, the 1 Foot Flipper. Today, we're going to look at 20 items that sold great in the month of August, right at the worst part of the summer slowdown. You can always have some great sales if you've got some great items, let me tell you. A few of the next videos may be out of order a bit because what was supposed to happen today was a video about this weekend, but Saturday's activities did not actually finish up and they're going to have to move on to next Saturday, so that video is not going to come till next week. But why don't we look at some sales for now? These are not in any particular order. I kind of tried to jumble them up a little bit to make it a little bit interesting. The first one was for $99. I sold this this Sony Handycam in a Geneva bag. The value is in the camera, not in the bag. It was functioning. The batteries held a tiny bit of charge, and it sold pretty quickly for $99.99. You know, that charm pricing. I go back and forth as to whether or not I use that. The next one is a collection of press photos of Winston Churchill. I got these from my friend Amy. There was a whole bunch of them. None of them were mint. Some of them were so damaged they were stuck together and I just had to throw them away. I couldn't get them apart from each other. I went back and forth as to whether I was going to try to sell them one at a time or all in a lot, and ultimately I went with a decision that would give Amy the most money because of the way I do my consignments. I put them all up in one lot, put $100 on it, and within a week I got the $100. No problem there, no complaints there. These all date back to the 40s and the 50s. Got the information on the back of them as to, or when they were purchased. For some reason, most all these were purchased in South America for some reason, like early 60s. But anyway, let's go on to the next one. This is a Warhammer fantasy item. This is basically a metal miniature. It's about that tall. Very fancy looking though. It's called a Skaven Doom Whale, and it's sold for $71.99. If you see metal miniatures of, fanciful metal miniatures of either a science fiction variety or of a fantasy variety at sales, and they're very cheap, pick them up. Now, eventually you can probably learn how to identify what is a Warhammer miniature or not, because the Warhammer miniatures tend to be worth the most, followed by the very early Dungeons & Dragons miniatures, which are actually very unimpressive looking. The modern ones look way better. But you can also get burned with miniatures. If all the miniatures are plastic and they don't have that Warhammer look to them, they could very well be a gutted board game, and they could have almost no value. Because there's a lot of board games these days where you paint the miniatures out of them, but then the board games, they go on clearance or closeout, and the miniatures end up being worth a little bit more than the game is. So people buy the game, throw the game away, and keep the miniatures. So you ever go to list a new item on any platform really, and you discover there's already 10 listings for the new item, and they're all the exact same listing, exact same photos, completely polished listing, and you wish you could just import that listing and use the exact same listing that everyone else is using and just set yours 4 cents cheaper so it sells first? With Crosslist.com software, you can import listings that aren't yours from many different websites. And that is a feature that I just love. I use that almost as much as I do using it to actually cross-list. I sold a box of Train Track. I had Train Track forever, and I've been selling it onesies, twosies, and I've been selling literally one every 3 months. I decided I wanted to get the stuff out. I boxed it all up into lots of various sizes so each listing could be unique. You know, like this one had 30 straight tracks and 18 curved tracks, or maybe it was the other way around. But either way, I got $70.05 for this one, and every few days I go and I lower the prices on all of these by $1 because this is a relatively high velocity item. A large box of G-Scale track does not sell every day, but a large box of G-Scale track does sell every couple days, and I prefer to get the sales on them because at this point I just want them gone. I'm not holding out for these big boxes that are not worth that much money. Sold the golf club, a Highbore XL, $62.99. I believe I got that from that seller who's, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name right now, who I bought out earlier this summer. These are more modern. These are some more Warhammer figures. These are modern plastic ones, although they're not the newest plastic ones. And Space Marines, and they sold for $69.99. A lot of times with these things like units, they'll come 10 to a time, and you'll get your best value for them if you've got all 10. If you've got 9, suddenly the person's got to come up with a 10th one, and it's gonna reduce that value. This is not the highest dollar item, but I just thought I'd put it in here. This is a 3-foot long gummy worm. It is many years old, so don't eat it. That's why I put do not eat it right in the title. And somebody in Australia bought this. Will this be coming right back to the eBay International Center? I have no idea. I just did my job and shipped it to them. I believe they're paying quite a lot of shipping on this. I have no idea what they're going to do with it. Do they have any pictures of it out of the package? I don't. It's quite naughty looking out of the package, so I'll just say. This is a miniatures display case that I got from Fox Hunter when I bought out most of his miniatures collection. This sold for $49.99. I extensively do miniatures myself, but I don't take them anyplace, so I don't need cases for mine. Like, this has metal trays in them. The people who take their miniatures places, they have a little metal dot on the bottom of each one, so they'll magnetize to the tray. And I don't need that. So, got $50 for this, and that's why. Okay, biggest sale of the month. Lego. This is an advanced Lego kit, the Market Street modular kit. It has been altered. It's missing a few pieces. It doesn't have the right minifigures. This one sold for $518, and it did take me like 5 months to sell this one. I bought 3 at the same time, and the other one sold much quicker. And I knew they were incorrect because the whole modular town had been set up for years at a certain place, and the kids had played with it back and forth, and definitely every minifigure was in the wrong place, and I only got part of the modular town. The other people who owned bits of it decided to keep theirs. So, still, a lot of money. Still fits into one box, though. I had to partially disassemble it. This is just an example here. Warhammer Inquisitor, Severina. This is just a single high-value miniature. It's hard to say. You kind of got to be an expert to look at something like this and know that it's worth $53.99. Honestly, I didn't know it was worth $53.99 when I got it. I got it with a bunch of other miniatures. I had to look it up on Google just like everybody else. This is just simply not a common figure that I would have identified just by looking at it. Oh, I promise you I won't put any more Warhammer squads in here. This is a squad of Catch-A-Can fighters. This one and the last one you showed, that let them represent like 20 more sales of squads like this in the $50 to $70 range. These guys partially painted, $57.93. I believe this one was actually oversized. It's okay if your squad goes over the 10, because the game allows you to have more than 10 in your squad. It's that you really don't want to go under 10 if it's a squad level thing. This one, 8mm camcorder. However, the camcorder function did not work. And I say to myself, Paige, how am I going to sell that? I could sell it for parts and get $8. No. Instead, I decided to describe it as a VCR. See video and read description, saying that the VCR function on this works perfectly. You can hook it up to anything with the appropriate cables. It plays, rewinds, everything else, those 8mm tapes that you want to do. However, the camera function does not work at all. Sold in 5 days, $39.99, which is much more than I would have gotten selling it for parts or selling it broken. I got this one from Fox Hunter, I believe. It's an interactive robot. He zooms all over the place and has a remote control. I think he talks. Fox Hunter's almost 30, so this would have been state-of-the-art like 16 years ago, I guess. Anyway, he sold for $35. Nothing to complain about there. I don't have as many super high dollar sales this month because I took basically the entire month out for sourcing. I did go out Saturday with my friend Peter, only because he really wanted to go out, and I'm not going to turn down any time that a friend wants to go out sourcing because that makes it easier on me. Another golf club, $42.99, also from the early summer buyout. Nothing really to say about it. I'm not a golf club expert. I gotta look them up like everybody else does. Here's an easy one. When you see that Warhammer name, you can just look the item up and see if it's worth money. This is a 13-pack of Necron Warriors, still in the box. Sold for $35.99. I think I paid $13 for it, which is just fine. This, however, is an almost 100x flip. This would have been 35 cents into $31. Corpus Crispy Raspa's hat. That's a minor league baseball team, I believe. I've had this for months, but it finally did sell. I think I started it at 35, so it got marked down quite a few times. Cool looking hat. When I first saw it, I would never have thought it was a baseball team. I would have just thought it was something cutesy. Either way, that's the best hat I've sold in a while. I haven't restocked hats in a while. Pokemon Sword sold for $30.99. Strangely enough, one of the last items from the Switch that I bought a month ago now. I bought a Switch and all the games and everything. How many games I got left for that? I got one Switch game left. The Pokemon was the second to last one to sell, which makes no sense. You think, aren't those the most popular games? If I price that to move, why wouldn't it move first? I don't know. Pokemon buyer. The Pokemon market is strangely addled by the influence of children and grandma buying the item for the person and everything else. Most other games, if you put them best price on eBay, they're going to sell first. They're not going to take 3 weeks to sell. Okay, 24 plain white label cassette tapes sold for $23.99. I almost messed up and sold them my entire stock on this because I, for some reason, made one listing for 24 and I put the quantity at 1, but I had 72 of them. Should have been quantity 3. I packed up all of them into one box, and only when I weighed it did I figure out that I made some sort of mistake. And now I better make sure, after this video is over, remind me to make sure that I actually went back and relisted this item, maybe with a quantity of 2, because I'm not sure if I remember to do that either. This was the last valuable Magic card for my own personal collection. I did not buy this card to resell. However, I did make out like bank on it. I bought this card somewhere between $5 and $8 about Julie's 13, so about 11 years ago, before it went up in value. And as you can see, $275. This is a high-grade card. This is a high-grade rare that is on the what's called the reserve list. This is cards they're not supposed to reprint. This is from the, what's the 4th set? Oh my goodness, this used to be my specialty, and now I'm not remembering the names of the set. This is from the revised set, which is the 3rd reprint of the original Magic set. And by reprint, I just mean 3rd printing, basically. The printings all change each time. Changed a few times. Anyway, this is still playable in many formats of Magic, and it just skyrocketed in value within the last 10 years. And goodbye to mine. Finally, a singular miniature, a Lord of Change, new open box miniature. And look at that, all that plastic. You gotta build that big old bird all by yourself. Sold for $129.99. So, what has been your best sale for the month? Put it down there in the comments. I want to know, because I'm obviously not getting the best thing every time. Somebody else has got to be getting them. I mean, Wes tells me about his best sales all the time, and they're always better than mine. So, I'm sure you're getting something better than mine too. Post in the comments. Thanks, and I hope to see you again soon.
See, that's One Foot Flipper's nonsense video.